This is Empowered Human Academy. Welcome home.
I think that this season, like socially, emotionally, physically, has acted as a catalyst for most people and pushed them towards the thing that they were maybe going to gravitate towards eventually.
This is about love. This is about light. This is about the idea that you have everything you will ever need.
And this life of yours, this is where you grow, you expand, and you remember who you really are.
I'm Abe.
I'm Isaac.
In Empowered Human Academy, we join with humans of all kinds to feel the inspiration that can only come with empowered living.
The stories you hear today are unique, but the energy you hear today belongs to you too. So, with hearts wide open, let's begin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Empowered Human Academy. Today we have our good friend Aaron that we're going to be conversing with, and we're so excited. So let's just dive right into it. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm delighted to have you here. Aaron is a dear old friend, and that will come up later. That's not where we begin. Where we begin is asking you about who you are. And it's a question of identity unto oneself. So it's not who you introduce yourself as. It's not necessarily your job, although that may tie into it. When you come home and it's just you and you're not being anything to anybody, who are you? What words of identity do you choose for yourself?
I think that's a hard question. In our society today, the first thing that comes to my mind is what I do.
Sure.
Which I'm sure I'll get into later.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to separate that out sometimes. There are certainly characteristics of who I am that play into what I do, but I think this particular season in our society as a whole has sort of been able to allow me to strip down like who I am when it's quiet and nothing else is going on. So it's been a lot of discovering that.
Cool.
I am somebody who gleans energy and excitement from other people. But I also have learned in this season, especially that there's a lot of energy that like comes from within myself, from doing things like yoga or meditating or taking a trip in my mind, like diving into a book, things like that.
Yeah.
I am a deeply relational person, kind of across every sector of my life. But I don't know, more than ever right now, I'm like also kind of diving into that relationship with myself too. So yeah, I don't know, more to come on who I am as words come out of my mouth over the next hour.
Wonderful. I'm really curious about the interplay between energy sources, right? Like you talked briefly, you just said about how you glean a lot of energy externally, and you've also discovered that you've got a lot welling up within you. Tell me more, if you can. Like what is the relationship between those two? What are you learning as you sense these sources?
I think like everything, there's a kind of a yin and a yang and a balance between the two. Traditionally, historically, I've been a very like social, on the go kind of person who's busy all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized how exhausted I was and how much like capability I have within myself to just like recharge by resting and spending time alone. So yeah, I think you need both, right? Like from energy to come from within and from rest, and also from like doing things out in the world with other people and in nature or interacting with everything around you, to kind of recharge and get your energy back too.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. For somebody who did come from like a strong history of getting energy externally, if I can put it that way, what did it feel like to begin to like have to rely more on energy that you get from yourself around that kind of recharging? Like maybe just the season of COVID is a good thing to ask about.
Sure.
What was it like to begin that exploration?
In all the ways.
Sure. Can you answer that question?
I don't know. Really hard, to be honest.
Totally,
It didn't come from a place of me choosing that.
Yeah.
Which maybe it would have been more motivated if it had, like I'm going to now start a journey to find energy and healing with myself. Like, nope, I didn't choose that.
Yeah.
Additionally, so most of my interaction outside of my home or my time alone, is spent at work. I'm a person who still physically goes to my workplace. And I work as a nurse in an intensive care unit, which this is, I'm happy to do it. This obviously, all pretense aside, has been a really difficult season. To do that job specifically. So going to work and being with my colleagues and coworkers and friends, and having that be my primary source of interaction outside of myself, where normally that would be really like recharging and kind of exciting and give, exhausting in its own right physically. But, there's a lot of good energy that just comes from like working as a team and
totally
taking care of patients who at the beginning of a 12-hour day are complete strangers. And then you end up like crying with and knowing their family and like seeing them at this really like tough and vulnerable space. Normally there's a lot of like good energy that can be a lot of good energy that comes from that. It was hard to navigate through some of the haze and fog of COVID, especially in the hospital, to sort of like filter through that and be able to see those good and like recharging interactions there. So yeah, it's been a weird season.
Totally.
Oh my gosh.
And you're known, I feel like, in our friend group and even everyone who meets you and kind of has stayed with you along your journey of your adventures in nursing and travel nursing, and we can get into that later. But as like a really resilient person, like you can just operate, I feel like the Energizer Bunny, like you just let's get up and let's do the thing. How have you taken, this year has probably taken a toll on you in some ways, given that you're in the context of being a first responder to this catastrophic year in a lot of ways. How have you taken care of yourself, and how have you mentioned a little bit in finding those like glimmers of light throughout all of it? How have you stayed healthy? How have you balanced living in a healthy way right now?
Yeah, that's kind of been the goal, the theme, the thing that's been my work this year. So a little more background. I moved back to Chicago a few months before the pandemic started. I started a relationship with my partner a few months before that and started a new job in the beginning of December. Picked up my keys to my like very first apartment by myself the same day and had like a few normal months in Chicago. And then we admitted our first COVID patient. Yeah. And this particular job is a new specialty for me as well. So just like whole new learning environment. Everything's new. Everything is new. Like a very stark contrast from the way that I had been living. And the nature in which I had been committing to all of those areas of my life prior to all those things I just mentioned, which we certainly should get into. I also, like as a side, but this is a big factor for me personally, and I know this, I work night shift, which, can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Night shift fucking sucks. It is horrible. It just like wreaks havoc on my body and like the nature of my work. When you start somewhere and you're new, you work night shift. Okay, cool. I've never worked night shift for this long. It makes me anxious. It makes me feel really depressed. Now add in all those like changes that have happened and transitions, and then COVID. Okay. Yeah. So like, holy cow. So I don't know, in the spring, it was just sort of like survival mode. Totally. And as the spring kind of turned into summer, I realized that like my depression and my anxiety were not necessarily presenting in a traditional way, but I just like was still kind of that like Energizer Bunny and like upbeat and full of energy and like showing up to work. But internally was absolutely exhausted. I was moody and kind of mean, and I was probably not a fun person to live with. I had horrible sleep. Like I had bad nightmares about work, just kind of ugly. And what's come of that has been just like so empowering and so powerful. I work for an institution that has like a really strong employee assistance program. So all of our counseling, therapy, psychiatry, prescribing, everything is all free.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
It's on site, and they're all of like the therapists are employed by the institution. There's like a beautiful center for wellness that's like has LaCroix stock in the fridge and the therapy dog in the lobby and like a nice lady at the front desk, and it looks like a blend of like IKEA and Anthropologie inside. And there's like plants, and
I love it.
What my therapist that I saw during this season was like a guy our age who always wore funny socks. Like, what? I don't know.
Amazing.
Cool.
I literally got there and I was like, I need help so much. I'm like eating well and exercising, and I'm trying my best to sleep, and I'm doing everything that I know how to do to take good care of myself. And it's not enough. I need more support. Anyways, long story long, super helpful. I got on some medication. I started seeing a psychiatrist. Great. I like tapped into all of those resources that were available to me. And I still work night shift, and COVID is like still present, but kind of puttering out. My relationship with my colleagues that like once was kind of strained because of COVID now has become this like band of brothers. We all experienced a shared trauma together, and like nobody will understand that piece of me more than they do. And me of them, which is like, now it's really fun to go to work most of the time.
Sure.
Because of that though, I feel really well supported because of all of those things.
Excellent.
Something that so your question originally was, how have I taken care of myself? By advocating for myself, by realizing the support that I needed and asking for it, by calling on other people in my life to hold me accountable to it, and sharing. So many, especially again, like the people that I work closely with, we've all gone through something really difficult. And it's been incredible the amount of people that I've been like open and vulnerable with about that area of my life. Because let's like call a spade, mental health and mental illness, there still is stigmatized. Everything from like, the most extreme to just like being a little bit depressed. It's all stigmatized, and nobody wants to call it what it is. Opening up about that and being really frank and honest at work with all of my coworkers who are interested to hear it. How many productive conversations have come from that, and how many people following those conversations have like sought help themselves. So yes, it was an individual effort to take care of myself, but also sharing and advocating for those things in the collective to perpetuate like other people taking care of themselves around me as well, has been, just really, really good.
That's huge and especially when I consider this in the institutional context, like to work at a place that so actively seeks to offer support and rewards people who speak up and say, I need that help. That's incredible.
They used to come around. This is like during the height of, this is like in the spring when things are really ugly in the hospital. They would come around with a cart full of snacks with like Kind bars and LaCroix, healthy snacks, and hand out cards that were like, are you feeling irritable? Are you having trouble sleeping? Do you need someone to talk to? And like, thank you. Yes, I want a LaCroix. Yes, I need your card. And also please give me a Kind bar because I'm hungry because I haven't had a break. So
that's beautiful.
Let's go. It was awesome. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How did you, was there any resistance internally for you to be like, okay, I find this really interesting that you said, I'm eating well, I'm exercising, I'm doing all in my toolbox.
Everything I know how to do.
Was there like a resistance in you to be like, a little bit ashamed that you had to go, or what was that movement? What did that movement look like for you internally to be like, I need help and I want it? Was there any resistance there?
Okay, so back to something that I sort of alluded to prior. Before this season, this past year and some change of living in Chicago, I had very transient geographical locations. I've been a nurse for almost 8 years. I think I've had 8 different jobs.
Wow.
Some of those being contracts that are short by nature. So not like 8 full-time jobs, but I have worked a bunch of different places. I had a history of being pretty transient and non-committal in romantic relationships. I was like geographically separate from a lot of my family. So it was easy to stay connected, but not necessarily be
Intimate?
committed in my day to day. I had a good thing going of just sort of moving on to the next thing always, looking forward to it, planning for it, but not always committing to being where I was in any given situation or moment. I have a theory about COVID in healthcare in general, but I think everybody to a certain degree. I think that this season, like socially, emotionally, physically, has acted as a catalyst for most people and pushed them towards the thing that they were maybe going to gravitate towards eventually. Like a lot of my coworkers have left or moved on to other positions that maybe they would have done a few years down the road or a decade later, but decided like, no, I need to make a change now because this isn't what I want to be doing. Or like you see a lot of couples that have gotten together and become really serious during this time. You've seen a lot of couples that have gone their separate ways. Like, I think the rubber has met the road in a lot of ways. So for me, seeking like professional mental health help had been something kind of a long time coming for me. And it like just made the rubber hit the road. It was easy for me to like put that off because, you know, as soon as I established myself somewhere, I was kind of working on transitioning out. So unless I was like really proactive when I first got somewhere, and started looking for that kind of support right away, it sort of like was kind of a moot point by the time I really got around to like taking it seriously. So, yeah, I think it was something that I like knew in the back of in myself that I needed to do. And, no, I don't know, you guys too, like there's a lot of people in our lives and in my family, and everybody knows somebody that has some kind of struggle with their mental health. And I've seen it modeled really well for me. And I've also seen people struggle unnecessarily for either lack of resource or lack of motivation to reach out to a resource. So yeah, just a plug to everybody who's listening that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And that's something that I would have said to anybody for a long time, but to really like internalize that and then embody it and do it has just been,
I think that it's okay not to be okay. I think what you took, I think what you did with that was saying it's okay not to be okay. And also it doesn't end there. Right. No. It's okay I can move forward. I don't have to live in this not okayness. Right. I think the first identifying that it's okay not to be okay. And then from that, there's so much freedom to then heal from that. Right. Like versus, oh, it's not okay. I'm going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to get help. I think what that statement, when I always hear it, I'm like, that is an invitation for so much more, which is what you've been experiencing.
Yeah.
I have a question. Tell me the story of your freedom over time.
Let's go.
Okay. For everybody who's in on this conversation that doesn't know what the Enneagram is, I'm going to give a very short overview. I'm sorry for the people listening who think that like personality tests or the Enneagram or whatever is like witchcraft, but listen,
Here we are.
I believe, okay. It is a personality inventory where there are 9 different types, each number characterized by a few defining characteristics, and different levels of health and disintegration within that number as you move through your journey. That's going to be a good enough explanation.
Yeah,
if you want to know more, please look it up. Oh my gosh.
Also look up our, I think, 3rd or 4th episode with an Enneagram coach. We talked about that too.
Also, yes.
Yeah, love it.
Go get all your resources on the Enneagram. Shameless plug. The Enneagram has been something that when I first was exposed to it, like hit me in the center of my chest. Like I was, again, it was years ago now, and I'm still speechless by how like moved I was and how like shook awake I was to the things that I had been missing out on.
Okay.
Because of myself.
Yeah.
I actually was living with you two and I was driving to work and I was like getting off the highway in Brimfield, Colorado. And I just was like, whoa, if I don't figure this out, I'm like doomed to be alone and shallow and sad and miserable and like not the best and most fulfilled that I can be. And like, who wants that?
Had you been listening to something, or how, like what brought
you? I was listening to a podcast, and it went through all the numbers in order.
Yeah.
And every number, this is like my first exposure ever. Okay. Every number, I was like, that's not me and that's not me. And maybe that's me. I'm a 7. So for being a little bit egocentric as a 7, to wait until number 7 in the podcast to get to me, I was like, is there even going to be one about me? And then it got to 7 and I was like, holy shit.
Okay.
Wow. Anyways, I won't get into all of those things, but the thing that struck me so much was sometimes a 7's inability to commit to relationship, to a place, to a job, to a career, are always on to the next like exciting and big thing and have a hard time being present where they are. And I had just moved home from living in Central America for a year and having like the greatest adventure of my life. I just moved to Colorado from the Midwest and was like super excited about travel nursing and was going to like bop around and stay in every place for 3 months and be this like exciting travel nurse. And you guys obviously went through this with me like pretty acutely because I was sharing your home with you. Yeah. But that was a moment where I was like, I got to stay. I have to stay and do the work. Otherwise I'm going to have a really hard time when it comes to a juncture where I do want to commit to anything long-term. I think I'm going to have a really hard time doing that. And I don't want to get to where I want to be and not be able to be there. So my 3 months in Colorado turned into 3 years in Colorado. And through that process of like practicing, putting down roots and staying committed and getting a full-time job and taking on roles of responsibility and leadership and all those things, I began to realize that all the things that I wanted to commit to, I didn't have to commit to, but I wanted to. And I just was talking to a friend on the phone one day and I was like, I think I want to do that by where my family is. So I guess I have to leave Colorado. That sucks, but I'm moving back to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I put all my stuff in a U-Haul and I shipped it across the country. And then I went to my hair salon. I made like a same day appointment and I cut 12 inches off my hair. So like, just like freaked out a little bit, but that was like a more healthy way of dealing with it than what I maybe had done before.
That makes sense. So connect this for me, because so far the hair part is maybe the only part that to an outside observer would look like freedom, right? Like you went from Central America and 3-month contracts all over the place and meeting lots of cool people and doing the thing that like is the postcard of freedom to now you are in a long-term professional situation. Now you are in a long-term relationship back in your hometown, more or less. What does freedom have to do with this?
All the things that I'm doing now, I was able to say yes to them when I wanted to.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, I can go and have like amazing adventures and travels and do all sorts of things that are that like really carefree and I don't know, more traditional sense of being untethered. I don't feel tethered to my life the way that it is right now. I more feel anchored.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah. Like I threw it down on purpose,
Yeah. Totally. I have been taking notes here and I've got the word choice written down with a big old box around it because you used it earlier in a way that seemed significant. And this, I guess, is the next thing that I want to know about. Given the way that you just described how freedom applies here, what does choice mean to you? And what does it mean when you have it? And what does it mean when you don't have it, as when we were all subjected to COVID, right? Like, what do you do when you have it or when you don't? And does that matter? And what does that all mean to you? That's a big question. Answer it however you like.
I'm not thinking. I think it's like maybe the most powerful thing that we have. And you can choose anything at any time. And I did that for a while. Like I had something in front of me and I thought that my choice, like the best choice for me was like to always say like yes and move on to the next thing. But choosing to stay or continue to do the thing that I'm already doing, or I don't know. I think I just over time have become more selective about the choices that I make. Like just because I can, it doesn't mean that I necessarily should or want to. My partner and I talk about this a lot, just about, and I think everything really, every type of love comes down to making a choice to like stay and be committed, even when like feeling may falter or things are difficult, or nothing's like exciting, like nothing right now is exciting or shiny. But I think it's like so powerful and romantic and bold to choose to like stay and dig in and do the work. And coming from a person who, there was like much of my life where I don't think that I could have done that if I wanted to. I like made sure I was ready to do that when I wanted to. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How?
Also, this like, never mind. No, never mind. This is an incomplete thought. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Fantastic. Feel free to interrupt me at a later moment with that thought when it completes.
It'll come back. I have my thought is about obligation. So you just put that in your head. Okay. And cool. maybe we'll come back to it. Maybe we won't.
I will write that down and circle it next to the word choice. Meantime, how do you choose? What motivates your decisions? Or a thread that has come up lately for us in our conversations is, how do you know what the right choice is / what does that even mean to you?
Okay. Again, the obligation. Like,
okay. It's time. Let's talk about obligation.
Okay, I'm going to say something else first. Okay. This is something, this is silly, but when I was like, I think deciding where to go to college.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a long time ago. A friend who I actually just caught up with yesterday advised me and like our whatever 17-year-old selves, that like one of the greatest disservices you can do to yourself is giving up what you want for your future to fulfill what you want right now.
Okay.
I don't think that's always true. Because like, who knows what your future is going to be. But if you have some like thing that your eyes are really like set and fixed on,
Sure.
then this is, I mean, kind of how I viewed my like transition, my whole transition home towards, you know, settling myself in a little bit more and not being so transient. I kind of fixed my eyes on, okay, what do I want eventually for myself down the road? And what decisions do I have to make now in order to land myself there? It may not be the easiest one. It may not be the most glamorous one, like short-term and long-term. But then also having this like intuition in yourself to say like, no, I just really want to do this right now. So maybe it'll take me a little bit longer to like get over this breakup, or maybe it'll take me a little bit longer to like make the career move that I want to make. But like, I really just want to do this right now. So I'm going to do it. And so that like, I guess the obligation piece more for me is internal, not necessarily societal.
Oh, interesting.
Then I'm like, no, I should like stick to my guns and do what I said I was going to do. I really should do this workout video. But I like, maybe I don't want to. Totally, and so deciphering between like, how much do I really want to change my like trajectory and how much am I okay with, you know, setting myself off course a little bit versus like, what choices do I need to like make sure that I am committed to making to eventually, you know, obtain the outcome that I'm looking to achieve.
And it's like a dance. It's a really delicate and beautiful dance, because sometimes like I've noticed ourselves, like what we want right now, let's say in 5 years, in a month from now, I might not want it anymore. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I think like understanding when your obligation is to identify like what is true in this moment, even about the future.
Does that internal conversation feel... Well, okay, here's a question that I want to ask, and I think maybe it comes from a projection from my own history. I think that sort of thing has felt like risky in the past, like there's a wrong answer. Is there one? What is that conversation like for you?
No.
No, okay. Tell me. Great.
Dealer's choice. Like, is there a wrong answer? I don't know. Is there?
Totally.
Like, if you have to ask me, is there a wrong answer? Like, I will take that question and just hand it right back to you, because that's truly up to you to decide. For me, it looks like this. For you, maybe it looks like this. This is how I think like in my like advice or my conversations with friends, or when somebody asks my opinion about something like that, I will turn my questions more towards like the methodology and thought process of decision making versus assuming that everybody's like on a general trajectory, which they're not.
No one is.
And that's so peace-giving and so nice.
Has that always been really peace-giving for you,
or a thing that you've known?
I short blurb into my kind of now distant past. I like grew up culturally and with friends in an evangelical Christian setting, and there's a certain in most of those circles culturally, there is a certain timeline and expectation, especially around marital status and property owning and procreation and and I even amidst still kind of being involved in that spiritual practice and culture, I never really ascribed to that. And not to say that those aren't things that I like want for myself or see myself doing.
Sure.
I just didn't necessarily adhere to a timeline that others around me were following. And that I like, I loved it and I don't know what I think that there is like something innately spiritual about my feelings towards that. I think that whatever power is ruling in and around us in the universe, like whomever it is, whatever they are, I think just gave me like protection from being fazed by that. You know, I felt like, well, maybe I should be because other people think I should be, but I'm not. And like now the place where I am today, I like couldn't imagine anything better for myself. And how many situations did I like snake my way out of?
Totally.
So like maybe it was countercultural in its time.
Sure.
That I like, things just like play out how they're supposed to, you know?
Totally.
I agree with that. To your point about how maybe there was maybe you had an out of some kind from some things that might have been hard for other people. I have this theory, or I don't know, it's my current understanding that like we're here to learn some things.
Yeah.
And maybe like my current understanding also involves reincarnation, which is a whole different thing. But like per my current worldview,
yes,
we've figured out some things before, and now we're here to figure out some other stuff. So there are a lot of ways we could take this particular
I mean,
thing.
we could talk for hours with you because that's what we usually do, but
That's true.
but we are keeping our listeners engaged.
So
Hopefully
Okay.
you're liking this episode.
I have 3 questions, and who knows if I'll forget the second 2. But the first one is,
okay.
assuming that's true, what do you have to share with the world? Like, what have you got figured out that the world needs?
Love that question.
Just a lot of things that I could say. Just kind of to in tandem off of what you're saying. I also gravitated more recently towards a really strong belief in reincarnation.
Cool.
And my dad actually is very Eastern in his thinking, and he has this, as always, my whole life has said, like, you need to find your people in your circle. That like you spin closer, and like everybody that you are like have been with through lifetimes, you like spin closer and closer and closer together. And I like, I truly think that there are a lot of those people in my life already. And when I meet one, I'm like, ooh, I've known you before. Like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
To that point, yes, a lot of like energy and healing and power comes from within me. But I think the importance of finding those people in this little circle that keeps like spinning tighter and tighter, find them and build in your relationship with them, because they already know you, and they already know your power, and they already know your weakness, and they already know like all of these ways that you need to have intimacy and be loved and make partnership and collaborate and like do life together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like keep your eye out for those people. When you find them, keep them, you know?
And it's possible to find them. I feel
Oh my
like
gosh.
I feel like you and I found each other in that way in college. And also I find it interesting because there have been people along my journey where they're like, wow, how do you find them? Or how, like, they're not used to the type of relationships, friendships that we've been so fortunate to experience.
Yeah, let's toss out my other question completely. How do you find them?
How do you find
them? Open to finding them?
Right? Because not a lot of, I don't think some people are, I mean, I think it's important to know how to be aware enough to find them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I'm going to interject here.
Yeah, go ahead.
While you think.
I have a thought, but keep going.
I think it's part like living in your authentic truth. So that way someone can connect to that sense of authenticity in such an effortless way.
Like
where you don't have to try. I mean,
No.
when we met, and for those of you who are listening, Aaron and I met in college at freshman orientation because we were the only two extroverts in the whole group. And I was like, oh my God, I need you to be my friend. And I was like, can you take classes with me? And it was so effortless though,
Yep.
in a lot of ways.
And
So
now it's how many years later?
yeah, 11 years later. Yeah.
12 years later. And the relationship has just grown deeper and deeper and deeper. I think because we already had a foundation to build on. But yes, authenticity in who you are and continuing to do the work to figure out like who is that and what does she need and how does she grow. But also an openness where you are and like again to like kind of circle back to the beginning in this whole year that I've had getting myself healthy emotionally and mentally again. It was hard for me to show up open and vulnerable in a relationship with people who I came across because like I wasn't available. So like, yeah, being healthy and being in a place where you can be yourself and then walking into situations and being open to like, maybe you're going to meet one of those people and maybe they're going to be a relationship that you like keep and grow for your whole life. And like the next one and the next one. I'm thinking of a specific friend. This is just like an anecdote to, I don't know, the unexpected nature of those things.
Sure.
From an old job he was a travel nurse and it was like my role that day to like train him. And I'm like, okay, whatever, this like guy. And like at the end of 12 hours, I was like, what? You make the same dent in your pop can as I do? That's so weird. Like, were we siblings before? Like 2 lives ago? I don't know. But, fast forward to a couple years later, we're living together. We're roommates. We're like living across the country and my parents come to visit and, my dad, we're like sitting up on the roof overlooking the skyline in Seattle and Reggie's home for a couple hours and he comes up to like sit on the rooftop with us. And we like, we like chat and hang out and me and my dad, my stepmom and Reggie, who I don't even know, like we had just moved in together too. So I don't even know Reggie that well at this point. And he hangs out, like whatever, fits right in and he leaves. And my dad turns to me. He's like, oh my God, have you guys known each other before or what? I was like, I know. But like, what? It's just like the person I was training at work, you just you never know where you're going to come across those people. So entering into all places as open as you can be, that's how you find them.
And aware. I feel like you were I feel watchful. Like you watchful and aware. And like, when I think of Aaron, I think of a person who's very aware and intuitive and like, who understands the nature around her in all different types of environments. So like, I'm going to ask you, is that who you always have been? Have you become more intentional as you've, journeyed through different times and spaces? Does that make sense? Because there has to be a level of like, oh, I'm watchful of this as well, because like you wouldn't notice if he did open the can of pop or whatever the same way you did if you weren't aware of that. Does that make sense?
I think I'm going to say a general statement, but I think it's true. I think that everything begets itself. Intentionality begets more intentionality. Intimacy begets more intimacy. Closed-mindedness begets more closed-mindedness. Like the more you engage in a quality or a practice, the easier it becomes, the more natural it becomes. So yeah, I think like time and time again, when that method of just like being open and intentional proves itself, I'm like, oh, I better keep doing that because it worked. And then like it works again and you are not rewarded, but it's just like, it like builds on itself. You become more able to do it because you see the benefit of doing it. Whoa.
I literally talk to my empowerment clients about this all the time. I'm like, the reason why some of the negative experiences or stories that you've been having in your life is because that beget all those things begat. All of those things like just reinforce themselves over years. So how can we flip the switch and start actually focusing on what you want, and then it's going to be an amazing positive cycle reinforcement, right?
Yep.
Like I 100% agree with that. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. So that's funny that you bring that up.
You know how you change it?
How?
You make a choice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think like, yeah.
And that choice isn't always easy. You don't know what step 3 will look like, but you learn, and then that positive reinforcement then just helps guide you. Yeah.
We got it.
We got it.
I also don't know how that's conjugated, but we're
I know, begatted. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure begat is a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. What are
Grammar.
Okay, cool. And maybe the answer here is health, given everything you just told us about. But like, what are you choosing now? Right? Like, you've got a lot of things that are maybe on autopilot, like good habits that you've got that have been reinforced themselves over a long time. What are you choosing now that is newer, or that you? Yeah.
Commitment in my relationship, in my romantic relationship with my partner.
Yeah.
That is something, again, like this transient pattern that begot itself for so long when like some of the like luster and excitement is gone, or when like things are hard, or for example, when you're stuck in a 800 square foot apartment in, with buildings on either side of you on a busy street in a large city for a year. Like sometimes it's just like hypothetically speaking, sometimes that's hard. And I think maybe a lot of people that are listening can relate to that. But yeah, this is like taking a lot of practice and a lot of choice for me. And again, like choosing to come back and remember my commitment and my affection and my attention for this person. And all the ways that like he has been and is and will be an incredible partner. That's like what I'm choosing right now. And it is not, again, because of like some of the patterns and habits that perpetuated themselves for so long by my allowance.
Sure.
This is like taking a lot of practice for me, and it's really good. It's like hard because this is like a switch that flipped.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I maybe want to try this.
Sure.
But I don't know how it's going to go. And yeah, I think like knowing internally in myself that I desired a partnership like this.
Yeah.
And not really like Abe, like you said, not knowing like what step 3 is, but just starting. There's been a lot of, learning in kind of in transit, but yeah, that's what I'm practicing right now.
Love that.
I know, me too.
As we approach the conclusion, I have a thing that I want to know. Tell me something that lights you up, like all the way down. Tell me something that lights you up.
A lot of things. Okay, this is a little random.
Cool. Great.
And again, I think maybe this is a part of a life past lived, but I started taking Spanish classes when I was 14 years old, when I was a freshman in high school. And it just in my brain somehow like clicked. I like learned formally through high school and college. And then I moved to Latin America and was immersed in the language, like in my work. And that's a whole other story. But speaking Spanish really does it for me. Okay. I don't know what it is. I have no idea like what the propensity towards that is, but like, especially during this season at work, caring for patients who have been affected by COVID-19.
Yeah.
When we talk about in the news or you hear about numbers of how it has disproportionately affected Black and Brown communities, let me be a person to tell you, in my experience, for real, is jarring, especially the Latinx community in the neighborhood that I work in. Anyways, all that to say, I speak Spanish a lot at work. Like there would be days and days and days where I didn't take care of a patient who spoke English.
Wow.
And I just like, it makes me feel alive. What?
Amazing.
So yeah, I knew that about myself when I was 16 or 17 maybe. And I chose a career path that enabled me to continue to do it and like put myself in those situations as much as I can. So yeah, I don't know. Just that's a thing. That's a fun fact. Okay.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Very precisely, the thing that I'm experiencing right now is delight. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Not random. I don't know. Even like, listen, there's a place called Tony's Burrito Mex that's like 2 blocks that way. Yeah. And I go there a lot, first of all, because it's not just the language, it's also the food. But I walk in, like the last time I walked in, they're like, hola, la señorita más bonita de Chicago. Like I have made friends with them because I go there. I'm like,
I love it.
What? It is delightful.
And I feel like it kind of gives you, I mean, even thinking about like having a dual language in your toolkit, like I feel like it just expands your world because you are able to hit a part of the universe living that like not a lot of people can, because it's more than one language, right? It's kind of cool. You get to enter into someone else's world, which is really cool.
I have made friends or taken care of people over the years who I made a friend when I was living in Guatemala. She was a nurse, our age, from Spain, from Barcelona. And she didn't speak, she spoke like a few words of English, but we were volunteering at the same clinic. And you put 2 nurses together, usually, if they even kind of get along, it's like, and she was there for a month. We spent the month together. We traveled together. We like did a backpacking overnight trip together. We like took a bus, the day trip, and like ate out of our meals, and she visited me at work. And if I love her, we still are this was like 5 years ago, and we still are in communication. I would not have known her. I would not have been able to like get to know her as a human person if I didn't speak the language that she spoke. Like it's incredible the way that like connectedness works and all that stuff.
Well, we are ending off this conversation with a couple of questions that we usually ask. And first and foremost, just thank you so much for being a frontline healthcare worker in this past year. And for those of you who are listening, please thank a doctor or nurse or a person who works at a hospital in any capacity, because y'all are the real heroes this year. So thank you so much. So, and I just want to get that out before we end the conversation. But one of the questions that we ask at the end of each episode is, what does an empowered Erin look like and feel like?
Everything we just talked about. I don't know. A work in progress always, but I don't mean to like harp on this, but really this is true. Like making choices every day towards who I know that I am and who I aim to become. Choosing things that are healthy for me and beneficial to the people around me. And some days those things look different. Sometimes it's rest. Today, I live in Chicago. Okay. Today I went snowshoeing. Okay.
Love it.
There's a lot of snow. I went snowshoeing. I don't know. That's what I needed for myself today. And so that's what I went and did, being acutely aware of where I'm at and what I need and building on that, giving myself like my things day to day to continue to grow. And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
And what do you know for sure?
I love you. Yes, that there is love between all sorts of people for every time and place and season, that you find in odd places sometimes, that is true and real and good and powerful. And everything else just kind of sparks from there. So.
I love that.
My tears and I thank you for your presence.
Sweet. Yeah, this was amazing.
Thank you for your time on behalf of everyone with whom you share your time and your linguas and everything else. Thank you for sharing. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
This podcast is the work of Lightward, our company, named for that toward the light direction which informs every single thing that we do, including money, which means, like everything else, the way we earn revenue is not based on industry norms. It's based on what feels deeply right and aligned by passing through the door that feels like it has more behind it, not less. And the way we keep this podcast going is all Lightward. It's pay what feels good. It's an exchange of value between you and us. We're keeping conventional podcast advertising totally out of this. And here's how Pay What Feels Good works. We give you this episode because it feels good to do so. And you consider, honestly, what number of dollars this episode is genuinely worth to you. I do not care if that's $3, $1,000, or literally $0 and a heart emoji, as long as that trade genuinely makes your day better. And the energy there is the entire point. That is what we're building our business on. No advertisers, no selling your attention, just you and us, trading value in a way that builds us both up. So whatever the number, when you're done listening, head to empoweredhumanacademy.com and hit the Pay What Feels Good button. We use this policy across all of our company's work, and I'm really excited to bring it here to the world of podcasts. This is us voting for the world we want to see. Thank you for being here.